Hello, this is Richard Gomez, prospector of wonder. Hats off to, put my hat back on, hats off to Wonder Hussy for inspiring me. I've always wanted to do this myself. So I've thought about how am I going to make this unique. What's interesting about today and why I chose just made this impromptu decision to start with this is because I'm in San Francisco, the future home of Starfleet Academy. Oh, there's my lovely wife with her Star Trek socks on. Hey, love, say hello. My world. Conference that I'm attending is the Human Geography Conference in San Francisco. Wonderful place. It's the next best thing to being at the Starfleet Academy, which is not here for another, 200 or 300 years. Or much later, 1,000 years if we're going by the new timeline, which I think is the new timeline. We should just get comfortable with that as the new timeline. I'll say this much right now. I've always appreciated the dialogue, the beginning intro to Star Trek. These are the voyages of Starship Enterprise. It's a 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to boldly go where no one has gone before, and so forth. Because that's actually future past tense. It's being spoken in the future because that's the setting of Star Trek, but it's talking, these are the voyages in past tense. Not, these will be the voyages. It's really talking, or these are the current voyages, even though we kind of changed it, ongoing mission. This was really, the original intent was for it to be past tense. And to me, that fits perfectly with the Discovery timeline, 800 years or 1,000 years in the future, because they're recovering the logs that have been lost through many, many centuries and many wars and problems and disasters, whatever, and they're recovering. So it makes sense that there would be, and Star Trek, of course, is always referenced, well, the data is a little, choppy during this period of time. The history logs are kind of silent. That's always a technique to avoid talking about our timeline, because it hasn't happened yet. So it fits. Anyway, I would also like to use this as a platform to engage or organize my thoughts for my PhD program. I think Star Trek works best talking as far into the future as you can think of, where it's still understandable, and you can just max out the tech as much as you want. Let your creative juices go. What's it like in the future? Nobody cares about particular timelines, particular dates. Like, we're just breaking physics. Let's leave that alone and call it like it is. Star Trek. A creative imagining and a perceiving of what we believe the future will be. Now, that's a classic take on Star Trek being real. And while admitting that, much of it is science fiction. What I've always loved about Star Trek is that it's very supportive. This is what you can do. There's a million things you can have, and there's a million things you can't have, according to Kirk talking to the wonderful Charlie X. We can recognize and what our potential is, and find ways to explore together, discover together, to assume that we don't have all the answers, but we have some of the answers, and we can get more of those answers as we continue the journey together. That's my takeaway. The way we create society or construct society as a support system for all of us. It's a support system. It's a place where you can come and safely imagine, dream, and construct your own meanings and your own identity or your own idea of family or your own idea of what it means to be a society. And maybe that helps bring us all on the same page that it should be a society, not a corporate entity or a corporate industry or just a rat race to nowhere, a race to the bottom, as somebody said. We should be able to take the time to do what we really do best, and that is connect with one another. We know how to collaborate. I just spent 4 hours on a plane. I haven't been on a plane in a while. I've been on a plane quite a bit in my life. And let me tell you, when you're at an airport, when you're on a plane, you don't always talk to the person sitting right next to you, but a lot of times you do. You're not talking to the person next to your left, you're talking to the person to your right. You might even be talking to the person on the other side of the aisle. You're going to be talking in line. You're going to be talking on your way out. Total strangers talking to each other, trying to get to know each other, asking questions. And that's humanity for me. We do that. That's our real baseline. I like to look at culture. I like to look at what I believe really informs culture at the basic level of our humanity, our individualism, which is our own psyche. So that got me into educational psychology, one of my concentrations. My primary concentration was applied anthropology, because I was really into cultural anthropology in my social science undergrad. So from undergrad, I also spent about a year seriously, and even some time before that, in seminary. Seminary brought me to studying the roots of Christianity, Jewish roots of Christianity, or really the roots of our religion, the roots of Judaism, the roots of Western belief systems. The more I got into that, and the more I just continued to follow those breadcrumbs, I began to realize cultural anthropology. It's cultural anthropology all the way down. I really wanted to be a cultural anthropologist or an urban anthropologist until I discovered environmental philosophy. I discovered human geography first. Human geography. The human geographer adds to that by really anchoring on the geography, how your environment shapes you, constructed environments and natural environments. And, the cultural part is where Star Trek fits in. I can talk about Star Trek, say I have a new comment I'm going to put on Facebook, and I really want to talk about our leaders in our country, and I want to talk about specific ones. But I don't really need to go too much on the podium to just bash people. I can do what Star Trek does best and step out and talk about something else. And you know what I'm talking about, but it's out of the context of politics or where the fevers are running pretty high. And just talk about, say, Spock. How do we know Spock? Or Picard or Kirk or somebody else who's going through change. And that's really all it is. We're going through change right now. And I want to have this, I want to be able to lead by example and really illustrate confidence. We have all the reason in the world to be confident, because what we're dealing with here is reality. We're not trying to make anything up. This is where a lot of people get it wrong. Well, you're trying to create a world like this and this, and we're trying to create a world like this and that, so what makes you any different than us? Well, I'll tell you what makes us different than us. One of us is pursuing truth, no matter where the chips fall. We're trying to find reality. What is it that makes humans human, and has always made humans human? Doesn't mean we can't ever go beyond that limitation, whatever we find, but we can at least anchor our expectations in what we actually have in our history, cultures, and our humanity, and see what has been invisibilized or made to be invisible because we just don't want to talk about it. We've done that a lot. Or things that exist, but they exist under the table. And why do we do that? Because we're trying to protect our particular beliefs that are very strong, and sometimes it becomes stronger and stronger over time. And yet, they're chock full of holes. Let's just call it like it is. But it doesn't mean we need to rip them apart either. It doesn't mean that they have no value. In fact, they have value. The value they hold is in the meanings that they give. What happens, though, when you take stories or narratives or legends or myths or just interesting stories that are a mixture of history and everything else I just said, they have insights for us, and they have real value because they inspire us. We often talk about things that inspire us. So in a way, I've gone full circle. In a way, I've kind of looked at religion rather harshly or critically, and but never wanted to keep a chip on my shoulder because I know what I have gained through religion, through my beliefs, my changing beliefs, my evolving beliefs, my continued growth in my beliefs. And it's not always exactly what you thought it was, but it's potentially much, much better. And if you're getting to the truth, it's going to equip you with the ability to deal with reality and answer more questions that need to be answered. If we stick to old data, we're limiting ourselves. If we ignore the new data that's coming in like a flood, then we're gonna be overwhelmed, for one. We can actually rise with it and understand it and embrace it and evolve, because that's what we need to do. I really believe in cognitive development, psychological understanding of things, so we can comprehend more and boldly go. And that infinite diversity that'll bring us through so much. Anyway, that's me in a nutshell. I also like to ride Harleys. I like to adventures. I like to go to hot springs. I like to do a lot. I spent 27 years in the Army, nearly 27 years, and decided to focus on the social things instead of the military things, and for good reasons. And we'll talk about more of that over time. I don't know if I'll even post this video, but if I do, this is my first one in this format, and I hope it does well. I hope if anyone listens, we can engage, we can have a good dialectic discussion. How about a agonistic, pluralistic discussion, not antagonistic, agonistic. It's a new term I learned recently, agonistic pluralism. It's where we don't try to destroy each other. We try to really understand each other's best arguments. If you don't know your best argument, I might help you find your best argument, and then we'll use that. And maybe I don't have my best argument, but you might know my better argument and help you get that. And let's get our best facts on the table and our best understanding of things on the table, and see where we can go from there, because we have much to learn from and much to gain from that. I don't need to destroy you. Historically, little quibbles are the basis of great friendships. So anyway, have a good one. Live long and prosper. The prospector of wonder here, Richard Galvez.